Alrighty, what's up guys? Today I wanted to show off a little mock that I made. Now, these two little guys are part of what I would call a SITH series. These are two vehicles I built for SITH and, non-canon. If there was like a bunch of SITH during the Clone Wars, these would be vehicles that they use. This one being the main transport, and you'll see in a minute why that is the case. And then this one sort of just being an extra little speeder. And you might be surprised, but these two things took me somewhere between 2 and 3 days to build. They took me many hours to get all the pieces and dig them out, especially that dark red. So these took me a long time to make, so showing your support would be amazing. Without further ado, let's get into these. So first up, I'm gonna go with the main course here, which is the SITH transport ship. Now, as you can see here, I've used Technic pieces and been able to sort of create these studded look all around by putting Technic pins in there. And I really like the look of it, especially up at the front, how it all sort of comes together and then bulges out here. I really like how that looks. So that was really clean, and then on the bottom it looks pretty clean too, but nothing too fancy. And then if we move over here, I guess you could call these the wings, but they're not really. They kind of stick out, and they for some reason remind me of the helicarrier, even though they look absolutely nothing like the helicarrier. And I put these little things on the bottom there to sort of help it sit up a little bit there. But yeah, it's about the gist of that. You can see how everything sort of flows up here. It was really hard to get the pieces, and I would have made them all the same color if I could, but I don't think I have all of this in black or just one shade of gray, so I decided to go with a few different shades. And if we flip it around back here, you can see odd shaping. I really like how it turned out though, where I used this Technic piece right here to sort of create a backbone for this thing, and it definitely outlines it really well. You can see we have some thrust down here in the main engine, and then we have two smaller engines up here to sort of power this ship that is definitely not to scale, and I'll show you why in a second. I used pieces from Kylo Ren's ship, his TIE fighter, for the sort of side of the cockpit here, and while it is very flat on the back, I feel like I sort of evened it out well, and that's kind of what I was going for with it too. You know, this kind of reminds me of Darth Maul, honestly, looking at it. I don't know if that gives you guys those vibes, but it definitely does for me. Up at the front here, I added stud shooters because I don't know if I'm weird for this, but I actually don't mind stud shooters on ships. And I thought those looked pretty nice. And yeah, basically this whole thing just flows up to the cockpit area here, where I tried to sort of fit everything in as well as I could. And you can see here on the top, we have this plate right here. And if you pull on that, that'll open you up. Now, I have a minifig that I made to pilot this, but I have absolutely no idea where I put him, so I'm just going to go ahead and use a TIE fighter pilot. And pretty easy, you just slip him in there. He goes pretty far down, and he's got some pretty decent space. You can't really see because it's so dark. It's all black on the inside with some red, so you can't really see it very well on the camera, but he's got a good amount of space there. Cover it up. Boom, you're looking fine on him. This part does pop out a little bit on the back here, but you just gotta do that and it puts it right back on. And the reason that this is the ship that carries the SITH is if you grab on these two pieces right here and sort of wiggle it a little bit, it'll come off. Now, as you can see on the inside, it's definitely not minifig scale, so it's all sort of just supposed to represent something, and it's I mean, obviously you can't fit a minifig in here with this on, but for purpose of play features, you can take it off, and I basically left this completely empty so you can fit as many minifigs in here as possible. I usually fit about 4 or 5 just on the outside here, and then you could fit a few more on the inside. And then I really just added a control panel, and then back here a couple clips to put some lightsabers for your SITH if you need to. And I put it back on. You're just going to take a look at this piece right here, and that's it. That's the only way it goes on, and it's extraordinarily sturdy, but you just have to wiggle it a little bit and it comes off. And yeah, I feel like that was a really good design point of the ship that I made. If this were to be a set, I could see this going for somewhere between $50 and $60 in Lego, because while it does not have a whole lot of surface area, it's very beefy and very bulky and very heavy, surprisingly. Alright, and next we're going to look at this little speeder. Now this guy, oh my gosh, this guy took me like 4 hours to build just because I had to find all the different sloped pieces to sort of round it off. And That was really annoying, but I think it was worth it in the end because this is probably the best looking speeder I've ever built because it's also extraordinarily unique in the shape. You can see I used these two big flat hood pieces up at the top here, and it really differentiates it from this and makes the front look a lot bigger. And then I have these angles sticking out at the side here, and I really like how that adds to it. Guns on the front, of course, you gotta have a bunch of guns on your speeder. Bottom, really nice, really clean. And if we move up here, there's not much surface area here, but if we move up here, we have the cockpit. Now this cockpit, this piece is very loose. This is an older piece, so it falls off, but I could totally switch it out for a newer one and it would be fine. But in here, you just put your minifig in once again, and he's got plenty of space. I got some room for his arms in the side there, as you can see. Put that over him just fine. This piece up here is actually supposed to be a control panel, and I don't know why it's not. I guess I just sort of built that as a placeholder and never went back and fixed it, which is unfortunate, but now we got one. Close it up tight, and yeah, this dude's got plenty of room, probably even more room in this cockpit, which is kind of funny, but yeah, no, I made sure to round it off as well as I possibly could, get it about as close to touching as possible. And I like to do this with most of my cockpits. It doesn't go in here, but if you push it down just a little bit, it'll go in there, and it's super tight, so unless you really pull, it's not coming off anytime soon. Now if we move on back here, you can see I rounded this part out really well with the slopes, which I really like, and it kind of just all goes down to the back like a big spike and really makes it look like a clean, very thick but also slim design, which I really like. And I think LEGO should do this a lot more with their sets, which is instead of making them massive and bulky and then having no interior space, prioritize interior space as the first thing, so you don't have to shove your minifigs in there, and then focus on the rest. So the rest of the ship is literally just some slopes and some angled plates out here, and then I just put a little spike down the middle, and that's it. And it's super simple, but it's super effective, and it allows as much room as possible for my minifig. So out of the two builds, which one do you guys like better? I know this one's bigger, so it's probably going to be the favorite by default, but this one also is extraordinarily slim and moves around very well. But this guy is, in my opinion, really well balanced and definitely well made because of how I used the bricks, or the plates rather, on the side, using the Technic pieces, as you can see right here. You shove it in there and it works just fine. And yeah, quick review of these two things that I built. Most of the time I spent building these, out of like the well over 10 hours I spent on these, was definitely just getting the little details in and making it look clean and sort of rounding everything off how I wanted to. And not as much time was spent on actual like space, but I still think, especially with this guy, I make do with what I had, especially when I was going to actually build a SITH infiltrator, and that's what inspired this, because I realized I didn't have the pieces, but I already had the base, so I decided to just go on with it. So there's that. That's about it for these two guys. Thank you so much, and tell me which one you like more in the comments below. God bless.